Welcome back. It's the Down Frozen River Podcast. It's a Thursday night, not just any Thursday night. It's St. Patrick's Day.
And we're not drunk, right?
Totally. Anyway, Mom, please don't listen to this. Just kidding. For Colby Kephart and Connor Keith, I'm Nick Lanciani, because intros are kind of our thing. Let's get into it. This week, we have a few different segments, exciting stuff. First off, we'll start with something that happened last week, but, spring break. The National Women's Hockey League kicked off their inaugural Isabel Cup playoffs, and the first champions of the league are the Boston Pride. They defeated the Buffalo Beauts in a best-of-3 series, 2-0. Game 1, 4-3 in overtime. Hillary Knight scored the controversial penalty shot goal in overtime, and Game 2 was a 3-1 score, with Brianna Decker having been the Isabel Cup Finals MVP.
We wanted to give them a round of applause, okay? They made a successful season here.
I was wondering why you were motioning with your hands there. I was like, I think a round of applause is coming. Good for this. So the National Women's Hockey League, successful first season, 4 teams in it. Great job all around. National Women's Hockey League Players Association will vote on the league MVP of the season, and fans are invited to vote for the NWHL Foundation Award winner up until March 18th at noon. But depending on when we get this podcast up, you might not be able to vote anymore. But Dana Lang is one of those players that is up for that award. If you recall, she was a Boston Pride forward who was injured in the first ever outdoor women's classic at Gillette Stadium.
Not to be biased, but I'm pretty sure she has this one locked up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty great to see not only the Pride win the championship, but then all the support for Dana after.
The day after they went.
They FaceTimed her, and then they went back and they brought the trophy to her up in Massachusetts. Great times. We're all excited. We're all happy. NWHL hockey is fun to watch because you have women like Hillary Knight, Megan Duggan, and some of these great players who normally represent Team USA, Team Canada, and they're just powerhouses. Side note, they might be expanding, as they teased at the very end of their broadcast of Game 2 of the Isabel Cup Finals. I keep screwing that up. I apologize. But anyway, it looks like they're heading to Montreal and Toronto.
I think those are smart. I mean, we have the the Boston team. Mm-hmm. We have the Buffalo team. So why not bring in the rivals of both?
Exactly.
I mean, they're going to try to expand the market and get more of the people who are bought into this rivalry to watch.
And now this league will be in direct competition with the Canadian Women's Hockey League, the other professional women's hockey league that's already established in the Montreal and Toronto markets.
So that could be interesting. Definitely maybe have some issues, but like I said, you'll have the rivalry, and I think that'll be a big push. And let's face it, our leagues, the NHL started off this way, so why not see where we can get with it? And maybe one day it'll be as big, maybe not, but let's just hope they can keep having successful seasons in my eyes.
Exactly. At the very least, bigger than it currently is would be a win in all departments. To wrap things up on the NWHL news, the 2016 awards ceremony will be held at 12:30 p.m. on Sunday, March 20th at the University of New Hampshire, coinciding with NCAA, Frozen Four playoffs and whatnot that's going on. More on that later. Now it's time to shift our attention to Boca Raton, Florida, where the NHL GMs have been meeting at their annual GM meetings. What a surprise. Colby, I'll let you lead this one in. I'll stop talking and you can start talking.
I'm not going to lie. I think this is the first time I've really paid this close attention to it.
Which is good.
Yeah, I mean...
Proud of you.
Yeah, I'm actually paying attention. But, some of this stuff has really intrigued me. Obviously, they went and improved the playoffs getting these blue line cameras for the offsides. I think this could be great. Because, let's face it, these offside calls have been ridiculous. We're watching these refs look at a tiny iPad going, sure, we'll say that was offsides, but the same play will happen on the other night.
And the other end. Offsides.
Yeah.
It is offsides.
Even worse, what game was that where they went to the review? It was blatantly offside.
It was Washington.
Yeah.
Ovechkin scored the game winner, and they showed Kuznetsov going offsides.
And then calls.
They showed the one earlier from in the game where they called Jeff Skinner off for doing the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous, and they got to find a way to get these fixed.
So how to fix consistency? end zone technology applied to blue line technology. I mean,
soccer goal line. I mean, you
Yeah,
gotta have it in
tennis.
most
it
sports.
sounds good. Whether you show the cameras on, television for the public or not, that's one way to slowly improve it. The other part would probably be just send it to Toronto, no matter what. They already have that war room set up for review pretty much everything. So,
if we want to continue on to the next thing, I believe they discussed making the goaltenders' pads smaller, and I think this is something they're actually going to try to push through. I don't know if they've necessarily
better than changing the net
confirmed
size.
it. Yes. And I've heard quotes from some goalies being excited. Robin Lehner made a comment the other night. I can't wait for the pads to be smaller. I think he wants more mobility, and it could be interesting to see what these goalies will be able to do.
You know what? Can we talk about Robin Lehner for a moment? Because I might be the biggest Robin Lehner fan now.
Why? Just because he wants to beat everyone up?
I mean, he wants to do it, but not in a Ray Emery kind of just assault type of fashion, where the Flyers and the Capitals had that game that was questionable in some of the methods. But Robin Lehner just,
He doesn't take
the way
anyone's
that he
crap.
was challenging things, and let's just say the Sabres-Canadiens matchup the other night was interesting.
Well, I mean, we had 3 or 4 players tossed out, and that's just from the Sabres team. I didn't really keep that much track of Montreal. You got Lehner calling out Scrivens at the end of the game. I'm excited for Sabres hockey.
I mean,
if we can't win, we'll just beat them up.
When you're right on top of one another in standings, and it's, you got your goalies saying, "Come at me, bro." It's for the lack of a better word, entertaining.
Well,
whether you like old time hockey or not.
It's nice because, don't get me wrong, I love goalies get bumped, and a lot of times it's the defenseman having to step in. That's something the Sabres, don't get me wrong, we step in, but we haven't had to. It's Lehner the one standing up punching the guy in the face.
Yeah.
Is this a sign of the Sabres growing as a team?
I don't know. Everyone
What, being
blames.
The
self-responsible? Is that what your
synergy
claim
is coming
or-
together. They're going to win the cup soon. I mean,
Well, I wouldn't go that far. We're still a few pieces away from even playoffs, okay?
true, but, Stamkos is still potentially an option.
I did read the other day we had the best odds. They actually put gambling odds towards it.
Oh, good.
Has
Even
anyone-
horse race.
Even money was Tampa, and we were 9-2.
So they have the draft lottery
Attaboy.
already established on the internet. I played around with it a few times. Sorry, Colby, Sabres aren't doing so hot and every time I run the lottery. But they should totally make a Steven Stamkos lottery, because I'm sure the Sabres will be the only team in that one. But back on topic here. So the NHL GM's meeting, goalie pads getting smaller. I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, something I like. Do you have anything to say on it, Connor?
All right,
Connor, we'll let you jump in
we
now.
sort of brought it up. I don't even know when it was, but we've had this discussion before already. The NHL was throwing around that they're going to make the goals bigger. And everybody was like, this complete crap. I mean, I don't know. They just made that goal alteration. It didn't really change the size of it that much, but it's like the goal doesn't need to be any bigger or any smaller. It's these goalie pads that cover up 50% of the net if they're just standing there. And so...
Especially since they're all huge now.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, it makes sense for the league just to be like, there's got to be something smaller going on here because the goal can't be that much bigger.
But the thing where we're going to see some issues is goaltenders like Jonas Enroth, for example. He's tiny. I mean, that could be a real disadvantage for him because
Right.
he's not as big.
But still,
You might
your
have to go with
speed
the
and
old-fashioned standing style and just kind of make those crazy stack-the-pad kick saves that they'd make in the 50s and 60s.
I mean, it just means you're going to have to actually, I don't know, go out and find a good goalie. I mean, your speed and...
Or find someone that's incredibly tall that can just sit there. You were saying, Connor.
You're going to have to start valuing speed and just having a technical play versus somebody who can just hope to get lucky.
Yeah.
So really, a well-coached position is going to potentially get even better coached, so will they have to
Right.
then make the pads even smaller? Am I the only one that sees maybe a potential problem 20 years down the road?
Well, I mean, and then that's the problem, too. You can't turn this into,
Soccer?
soccer or baseball lowering the mound because Bob Gibson's too good for the game. I mean, you can't have that because you can't send these guys out here with no pads either.
Is there even a problem with offense? I mean, it seems this week we've had, 4 or 5
Right.
games that, at the very least, with at least 7
Jersey,
goals scored by one
Jersey,
team.
not exactly known for their offense. 7 goals tonight.
Yeah.
And offense isn't everything. I don't mind watching a 1-0 game as long as stuff happened.
Okay, this is probably not good for Sabres because I've had this discussion with both of you. We play an ugly style of game. The games that we win, in regulation, we're winning like 2-1, 3-2, where we're playing just defensively, just doing enough, and then going to score a goal or two.
And I think, too, sort of going off what you're saying, I think it's as much as it's going to put a high value on good goaltending, I think it's even going to put a higher value on incredible defenses like, I don't know, Anaheim, some of these others that keep pucks off their netminders. Yeah. I mean, if you're only having to make 20, 22 saves a night versus some teams have been getting 40, 45, I think, I can't swear to it, has there been a 50-shot game yet this year?
Oh, there has.
I mean...
Did you see the
if I'm a
Kings
goaltender, I'm not coming back out after second intermission because I'm not dealing with that crap. Like, you got to get a defense to actually stand up for your goaltender and take some blocks.
Not once made a 70 save game, and
this may be not as important, but like, if we keep adjusting this, what becomes a good save percentage? Are we going to drop down into the 8s?
I mean, I don't think he'd ever drop to the 8s,
But that's the thing.
Around the 9s, I mean, to me,
we used
as
to have
high
9s, and now we're playing with 9-3s as the best.
I think the league average right now is a 9.16, I think.
I mean, I like watching defensive games. Like I think it's really interesting because it's a more playoff game. Like that's what you want. Playoffs aren't high scoring.
Yeah, you don't
score a goal.
Yeah. If I wanted the NBA All-Star Game, I'd watch the NBA All-Star Game. Or the NHL All-Star Game, really, for that matter.
Which the NHL All-Star Game was fantastic.
So. Yeah, so really, it's like...
They're fixing
so that joke's out the window, we have to go with the NBA one. But yeah, if I wanted to watch offense, I can go out and find it.
Yeah.
And to your point about, it's not necessarily a Sabres style, if you can score a goal, surely you can score more than a goal with... less pads. But then again, if you allow a lot...
But that's the thing, is if you're a defensive-minded team, it could hurt you. And that's the
So basically, if you're Detroit...
But, I mean, even if you think about New Jersey, doesn't put up that many goals, usually. I mean, I understand we talk about
7 tonight, but... yeah.
But they're kind of like a quieter team offensively.
Absolutely.
And they always have good goaltending. I mean, they would, from the transition of Brodeur to Schneider's, it's not that bad. Today's the anniversary of Brodeur setting the 552 win record. Whatnot.
If we want to move on to the next thing.
Yes, please do.
They brought up another big topic was expansion and how the expansion drafts would happen, whether it's one team or two teams.
If expansion occurs.
Yes, if expansion occurs. I think this is where most of them weren't really discussing how they were feeling as much as they were just trying to learn.
Right.
Because there was a lot of...
last time we did this, there were no move clauses. There were no trade clauses.
Yep.
There wasn't a salary cap.
I think a lot of them were just trying to understand, like, what are our options? What are our choices? How is everything going to fit? I think this is more of an educational session where the rest of them, they would bring up... portions that they wanted to talk about.
Colby, I have a question for this, and this is totally going off script, so if I make you sound like an idiot, I really do apologize.
We don't have a script to begin with.
Because, I mean, the last major expansion, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe was the NFL's in the late 90s with the Panthers and the Jaguars, in which case they do have salary caps, they do have some of these no trades. Did the NHL discuss anything sort of modeling it after the NFL, or what went down there?
Well, I mean, the last expansion in the NHL was 2000.
That
was before the salary cap model.
Saying,
right,
exactly.
so based on sports.
That model, it would be the NFL.
They did not say anything like that. I think they were trying to model it off their own that they've already done before.
Right. They're their own image, their own brand.
Just because a lot of the things were the amount of roster players you can hold, the players that are eligible, the players that aren't eligible, how no move and no trade applies. So necessarily, you got to imagine roster numbers are very different between NFL and NHL. So I think they had to worry about what they did before, and I don't think they mind what they had before. But I mean, just no trade and no move is just a big new topic.
And and this is completely coming out of left field, which doesn't exist in a hockey rink, but. What if they just didn't have an expansion draft? Would it be crazy to just have, sure your team might be bad one year, but at this rate...
You want them to field,
the way the draft works and the way people make trades and sign things, I mean... Granted, that would be kind of... That'd be very laissez-faire.
No, but
you need something to deal with.
It could be interesting in the fact that there's probably a lot of KHL players and other players from other leagues who would probably like a chance to come over.
So you just want to transfer.
So Ilya Kovalchuk wants to come back? Yeah,
no,
there you go.
I mean, they leave here all the time and go play over there. So why can't they do the vice?
True.
So I mean, that's be an
You
interesting
might question the
thing.
compete level. You might question some other.
But the other thing that everyone, at least if I'm thinking of MLS, how they do their
Yeah, 'cause
expansion
they're
draft,
expanding every year.
they give the first overall pick in the draft to
Correct.
the expansion team.
And then
Which
they
is
also
what
have,
happened.
Yes,
most
and then they also
expansion draft.
they do the expansion draft and they give the first overall pick.
Yes.
So like, if
which
it-
it seems the NHL has kind of done that in the past, at least
That's
around
what
the,
NFL,
the
going
Atlanta
off the NFL again,
Thrashers.
that's what they did.
I mean, the Thrashers, I don't believe they necessarily might have had the first pick overall ever, but depending on the number of teams, if it's something that they can work in, they might do something like that.
See, to
that
me-
might not be that bad to
to
look
me, I think it's ridiculous. I think like okay, imagine if we were adding this year, every team that's been at the bottom right now would just lose out on Austin Matthews,
Yeah.
and like
at. Which is why I'd probably be like, so you make it the 32nd overall pick.
it'd be ridiculous, but you can't do that to that team.
Right. To make them have the last pick after Chicago or Washington.
I think
right.
you would have to put them in at where the
15th
playoffs
overall.
where the playoffs kick in,
So
and
like
then
the last-
run the lottery with them. So even if they move up a spot,
Okay.
or maybe move up 2 spots, I think you then have to do it that way.
So make them
Good
the
hot
last man
takes,
out,
good hot
kind
takes.
of.
Yeah, I think because I don't think you can just be like, we're gonna make you the last pick, because then it's like,
No.
okay, you're not getting anything from this, so you might as well
Yeah.
just give them 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
Well, can we touch a little bit more on the NHL entry draft for a moment? How the GMs are talking about maybe making the age limit increase from 18 to 19, when most other leagues are trying to say, let's get them basically when they're born.
I think it's surprising,
Looking at you, the
just
NBA.
because if we look at players like Jack Eichel and Connor McDavid, I understand they're both 19 now, but that would make their draft year this year.
Yes.
That would put Austin Matthews also in that. Well, I think that would push Austin back.
True.
So, I think it's surprising because we do have spectacular talent at that age right now. So I'm not really sure why they want to do this, except for maybe the later picks.
See,
I'm questioning
what-
the development flow there, because
yeah.
in the first round, they're ready to go. Whether you put them in the NHL or if they need just one more year or a little seasoning in juniors. But for the rest of the draft, yeah, they might need one more year in juniors, period.
That's exactly what I'm wondering too, because I mean,
I can see why they might try to align it with the AHL.
You can have that optimistic mind or a viewpoint of them trying to protect these players, or you could have the pessimistic mind viewpoint that I do about the NFL. You have to have 3 years of college. Why? So the NCAA gets their money. Basketball, you have to have 1 year experience in college. So the NCAA gets their money. You know, I mean, because the NCAA is not going to make money off people that they didn't qualify for the draft. So, but my question here too, though, is what is if that were true, I mean, if you're that pessimistic and conspiracy theory-esque about sports as I am, what is the NHL really trying to promote? Are they trying to promote these juniors? Are they trying to promote
I think
the
Well, 'cause
NCAA?
that was going to be the next thing that I was going to point out, is that there was something I was looking at the other day. I can't remember what it is, can't remember where it was, because I'd share it if I could. But it was talking about the many different paths to the NHL.
Yeah.
And how there is, some sports, it's very set, like baseball. Go play college baseball, go get drafted, go play
If you're playing college
through the
baseball, your
system.
draft stock's down.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
most of them get drafted out of
High
high school.
school.
but point being, go play single A, go play double A, go play triple A, go play MLB. In hockey, granted, the ECHL is becoming more developed than ever.
Slowly, yeah.
So you kind of have that double A system kind of going. But there is no one path, no one direct route. Like, yes, NCAA is a monopoly there. Or, yes, junior hockey is a monopoly there. Players are kind of going anywhere and everywhere. And then you have Austin Matthews, who deflects to Europe
Pulled the
to
joke
play
out of his deck.
in a
and-
professional league with a Swiss team with Mark Crawford, and they've been on fire, except their season just kind of ended.
Yes.
Which means Matthews can't come back and do anything. Which puts him in a setback as long as he's, training. He won't be too far off.
I'm just thinking of unless you have like a top 10 pick, or sometimes you can stretch it even farther in the first round. These players are going back to wherever they were the year before, whether it's the OHL, WHL, whatever.
Mhm.
And we drafted someone, I think Hudson Fashion, 2 or 3 years ago. We you've seen him in the prospect game, but never seen him play, and he's still going to college. So,
Right.
what does that do to draft age? So what, we draft him, so say we draft him 3 years ago. So now we draft him 2 years ago, and he still sits in college.
Right.
It still doesn't do anything. He's still sitting in college. These college boys they're most of them I say are kind of being smart and waiting to get their degree, and then they can go play hockey.
Actually, in 2014, the APR rate for college hockey players in men's college hockey was the highest of all NCAA Division I.
Which makes sense because
teams.
every other sport you can't camp out like that.
Exactly.
If you get drafted in baseball, either you reject the draft or you're drafted, you're going and playing for fill in your team name here. Same with football and basketball.
And to me, it just it seems silly. Like what's the point of pushing it back? So and maybe his value goes up, but not really because he's still getting drafted with the same age kids.
I mean, I don't think this discussion is at all any means serious, but it's a discussion at the very least. Like every year they keep talking about let's put the face-off circles in a different position of the ice, and I say, what are you thinking in trying to do that? Because
let's move the PATs back 10 yards.
yeah, I mean they'll say like let's have 3 face-off dots on the ice. Center ice, one near the goal, one near the other goal, and it's like, well, that completely changes the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they do their test run in September, whatever, with the prospects in Toronto, and it looks cool. But then it's great when they're like, actually, no, this would ruin everything.
All right, so if we want to move on, I think the one final note, it was talked about that Dale Talon,
Yeah.
the GM of the Florida Panthers,
Former GM of the Chicago Blackhawks.
was going to bring up in the meeting the possibility of any contact to the head being a suspension. Even if this is incidental.
Adjusting Rule 48.1.
And I think I agree with this. I don't think we need to deal with lawsuits and concussions. I understand it's part of the game.
It doesn't help that some of the recent comments have been made from whether it's NHL or other leagues in the NFL about CTE and concussions. If you've heard any of that.
The Weidman referee, he still is dealing with symptoms.
Yeah.
And his season's done.
Mm-hmm.
So
his career might be done.
Yeah, this is something we need. I don't care if
that's
it's
a separate discussion of don't touch the ref. Period.
Yeah, but
don't care if if you claim I was injured or not.
I don't care if it's
Follow
incidental.
protocol.
This is like the questionable boarding calls. Everyone used to get really picky about the boarding calls. I haven't seen a suspension been handed out in a while for the guy getting pushed face first into the boards. Mm-hmm. And it's happened to Sam Reinhart. Delorier had it not too long ago. Like, I'm just thinking of the games I've watched personally, but I know I've seen it more, and it's just like 5 minutes isn't good enough. I don't care if he meant to do it or if he didn't. Suspend him.
And they were talking about with that 5-minute major penalty about whether to make it last full 2 minutes or 5 minutes. If someone gets scored on, should they still be on the power play? A lot of that, to me, I don't know why they're discussing this. I don't know where they're coming from, other than what ultimately should be discussed is protocol and suspensions in terms of Rule 48.1. How often do you make suspensions? What do you set as a minimum? How do you try to stop repeat offenders? And then protocol, I know, off of all these tangents, Colby and I, at the very least, have talked a lot about, instead of being the 15-minute quiet room, it should kind of be, if you think this guy's a concussion and it looks apparent and, you can tell within 15 minutes, then shut him down no matter what for the rest of the night. Shut him down sooner than that. Just shut this player down.
Surprisingly, it's the NFL that's been on the forefront of that one, which, that's a joke in and of itself.
Questionable. There were some things like Cam Newton.
If it's questionable, they just, and that's obviously self-reported, but it's like if you think it's a concussion, your night's over. Yeah. Which I do respect the NFL, although they've avoided the whole concussion thing for years, that they actually were one of the first leagues, I believe, to actually make that effort, being like, you know what, brain injuries are brain injuries, you're not dealing with that crap.
But a lot of times, concussion symptoms, they don't start within the first 15 minutes, is my point. So if a player is suspected of having one, just shut him down the rest of the night. If that's why you lose, don't blame it on that. You gotta play better. If someone could get hurt with anything else and they could go down, broken finger, you gotta find a way to step up. So an injury is an injury.
If we want to continue to look at different leagues, I think probably it's going to surprise you guys, but I think the worst league when it comes to players having head injuries, and you probably wouldn't suspect it, but it's soccer. Mm-hmm. These officials have been horrible. I understand we're getting a little off topic here, but I've watched players have straight concussion, and you watch them wobbling and falling all over the floor. They go out, stand there for 2 minutes, and they're running back on the field, and the ref's waving them, and it's mind blowing. And I think that's going to be the next league that kind of makes a step up. It needs to start progressing. Like, head injuries, you just need to go. Just make the substitution.
So with that, MLS, you could be a leader and be better in Premier League if you cover concussions. Anyway, we want to see
I'm a sporting fan.
I want to see
Don't get
every
optimistic.
league do well,
Yeah.
ultimately.
I just think the one thing that really does bother me about the NHL is the hearings that don't result in anything. If you know it's bad enough to have a hearing, why is
At least make
nothing
it a
coming?
game.
Yes. Why not one game? Why not 2 games? I'm fine with that. If you know it's bad enough for
It's
a
like
hearing,
fighting with the last 5 minutes. That's technically an automatic one-game suspension that they either overturn or they say, oh, yeah, actually, you're an idiot. Don't do that.
I think that needs to do something. They need to automatic. If you have a hearing, it's at least 1 game.
Well, anyway, shall we talk a wild card for a moment or two?
Do what?
Because if you've been paying attention, there's pretty much no team that's really out of the playoffs mathematically. At this point last year, the Toronto Maple Leafs were technically mathematically eliminated.
And the Sabres, come on now. We were mathematically
Well, yeah,
eliminated.
Don't hate.
but
Don't
I
hate.
saw the on this day a notification or whatever. So good for league parity, perhaps. Technically, the Maple Leafs still aren't out, but they probably will be in the next couple of days. Let's be honest. And so will several of the other teams at the Toronto
20-game
League.
win streak. Here we go, baby.
Let's go. There's not even 20 games left, but good try.
But, well, I mean, the Sabres are 5 points better. So there's still hope, maybe, if you like being 6 points behind Montreal. But anyway, current wild cards, you got Pittsburgh and Detroit in the Eastern Conference. Then you got Philadelphia, New Jersey, Carolina, Ottawa, all still within about 10 points of the first wild
Arguable
card.
striking distance, is that what you're going to call it?
Which, even then, if you want to talk about 10 points within the first wild card and within 10 points from the second wild card, the Montreal Canadiens only have 72 points on the season, so they're still within reach. If Price comes back, but Subban's out, but Pacioretty was out and back, they've had a lot of injuries this
yeah,
year.
because Price is going to come right back and be top-notch,
top-notch.
100% save percentage for the next 15 games. It's going to be awesome.
So, yeah, maybe not Montreal. Maybe
Go
not
to
Ottawa
every
based on
game,
some of their
Habs fans.
momentum. But what do you see happening in the Eastern Conference with the wild cards positions?
Well, just to throw in a little plug for my article, this is what I discuss in the Colby's Corner that is releasing Friday.
Just dropping the mixtape of Colby's Corner.
At 10.
Dropping some beats.
And some hot takes.
I see Detroit's streak coming to an end, and I see the Flyers taking it.
I saw someone on campus today wearing a Flyers jacket. I wanted to tell him, like, go you guys. Nothing against Detroit, but just to see an exciting battle for one of the wild card spots.
Well, let's face
I
it.
wanted to make his day, too, just to be like, hey, let's be nice.
The
Let's spread
Flyers
niceness.
are doing this without Voracek. You talk about Flyers. You have probably 3 main pieces. You argue Giroux, Voracek, and Simmons. They are doing this without one of their pieces, and players like Shen and Raffle are stepping up and playing amazing. And I think the correct numbers are 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. How are you going to argue with those numbers? I'm sorry, Detroit. I understand Larkin, great year. I still think Gossenberg's the better rookie.
I mean, when I featured them, actually that matchup, Detroit in Philadelphia, whatever day that was, Monday, Tuesday?
One of those days.
What?
One of those days.
Whatever day before they played Chicago and then won again.
Philly.
Basically, I just laid it down at the bottom of my article and I just basically said Philadelphia's the better team. Detroit's fallen apart. Even though they've
They're
been
peaking at
so
the right
good
time.
for years at treading water, and I was kind of optimistic at least optimistic for Detroit. A month or two ago, it's like they're at least going to keep treading water. I don't know. Philly's been on a crazy surge, close to Ottawa-esque last year, maybe, just in the way they have powered through and just climbed up the standings at a remarkable rate.
And sometimes it might be good if an organization misses the playoffs one year. I'm
Absolutely.
not saying look at the Boston model, but that was just, Don Sweeney, Pierre Chiarelli, whatever you want to go into there. But if the Red Wings miss the playoffs, they come back hungrier next year. They come back a little bit more refreshed and energized, ready to go, and they can do some retooling processes that
They're under a rookie coach.
exactly they have a lot of younger guys. They have Nyquist, they have Larkin, they have plenty of young guys in their lineup that they're trying to implement in the right ways. Not saying it would it wouldn't be okay to see them if they do make the playoffs. That'd be a huge motivator for those guys to get more experience. But it's not the end of the world maybe for Red Wings fans it is for this streak, but it's not the end of the world if you miss it by a year and you get right back into it.
Especially not being as competitive as they are.
Right. That's the bottom line.
If they jumped off the bottom of the cliff and they're below to Toronto right now, I'd be a little worried. But the fact that they're going to miss it by let's call it 5 points at most, is pretty remarkable for a team that's been doing this well for that long, to not have draft picks, to not do this, to not do that. It's been pretty incredible to do what they've been doing this season.
Competition is all that it comes down to. And if you can be more competitive and maybe thrash around with, the Capitals or something.
That was a joke.
But if you're the Flyers and you can maybe take on the Washington Capitals at all in the playoffs, hey, props to you. Playoffs are...
It's the NHL, too, so you have no idea what's going to
Exactly.
happen.
Playoffs are entirely separate seasons, so... Colby, you're dying to say something here.
I think the last note, and I think I have to make it because you guys know how I feel about him, I like to point out that the Flyers are doing this with both Steve Mason and Neuwirth. They're basically splitting
like
time.
29th and 30th different goalie in the last 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're doing it with both. They're splitting both of them. I think they're doing it pretty fair.
Which, is partially due to Neuwirth not being able to string 2 games together, it seems. He's, always hurt. But still.
So Steve Mason, congrats. You're playing some good hockey right now. You know how I feel about him. I think we can move on to the West now.
Yeah, I was going to say next few minutes, let's talk about the Western Conference. So nothing really changing much in the Central Division. You still got Dallas, St. Louis, Chicago is one of the top 3 within the top 3.
Nashville's pushing for that 3rd division spot.
Well, hold on. We're going to talk about when we talk about the wild cards. But first, I was going to talk about the Pacific Division basically still being the California Division. And then you have the wild cards in the West, which this isn't nearly as exciting as we hoped it would have been at least a couple of months ago. Because you have some teams... Basically, you got 3 teams battling for wild card spots. The 2 that are in the wild card, and then the 1 that's on the outside looking in. But you have the Arizona Coyotes, Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, Winnipeg Jets, and Edmonton Oilers within the 60-point range on the season, between 67 and 63 points. So, Nashville, Colorado, Minnesota, of those 3, who are the 2 that you see moving on?
Okay, so I'm going to leave Nashville there just because they're Nashville.
They're competing for the 3rd division spot. They're not worried about losing the wild card.
I would love...
You could say they're ultimately about 10 points away from...
I would love them to fall out.
The other one.
And I'd love to see Minnesota and Colorado make it, but that's just the fan in me. But I think they're going to, and I think Colorado's going to take it. Colorado is in a...
Joe Sakic seems pretty determined.
Well, Colorado's in a playoff spot, and their goalies were hurt half the year. People got to remember
they still are every now and then.
So, I think Minnesota's good right now, and I think they're playing decent hockey right now, but I still think Colorado's going to hold on.
And I know it's hard to hold it against them, but the Jersey's 7 goals that they scored tonight was against Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, given it was in Jersey, but when you're making a playoff push, giving up 7 goals
you can't have that happen at this
that
point
doesn't
in the
give me the
season.
warm fuzzies inside about
doesn't.
a playoff push.
Granted, they did beat Chicago earlier in the year, 6-1 outdoors, but
Detroit proves it. They won tonight. They moved into their wild card spot. That's what Minnesota needed to do tonight,
Absolutely.
and they didn't.
maybe there's
They
always
lost their
tomorrow.
game. They lost their game in hand, and that is not a good idea either.
Yeah.
Minnesota, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not seeing it.
Hey, that's little Buffalo you're talking to right there.
Little Buffalo. And especially if it's anything like the Vikings kicker, please, Minnesota, do some things that your state can be happy.
You just brought in Blair Walsh. Now we have to feel some
Poor Blair Walsh.
I'm sorry, Blair Walsh. But I was on the plane one time flying down during that game, and I was watching it just going, oh, he's totally going to make this. And then, boop,
negative
totally
like
did not.
10, 15 degrees kicked in, and he did not make that kick at all.
And I was like, well, that's one way to lose.
Really disappointing.
It was a cold game that day for everyone in Minnesota, so I know I would not have been a happy camper.
Oh, cold day.
There's no camping then. It's that cold. Just letting you know, we're going home.
Even the fires froze. So I think we're off topic enough now to be done with this for this time around.
We need to go get drunk.
Bad idea, guys.
Once again, Mom, we are not doing any of that. We're being responsible. This message brought to you by, is there someone that we're being
Should be a
sponsored by?
disclaimer or something?
Coors Light's the official beer of the NHL. Okay, so Miller
Well-
Coors, they totally brought this.
If we get hit with a bill for that one, you're paying that one out of pocket.
I have a tap. I can drink water out of my sink. Bum bum bum.
Well, we just lost that sponsor. As
we
Conan
do now.
O'Brien often says on his show when they make fun of things. So, for this week, I'm Nick Lancier, alongside Colby Kephart, Connor Keith. We'll catch you next time right here on the Down the Frozen River podcast.